The GameStop rebellion has the machine shook. They're scared. The hedge funds are set to lose a lot of money, and people are starting to realize that this goes well beyond just buying stock in GameStop. Recently, Marc Cuban held an AMA, an Ask Me Anything session on Reddit, where he ultimately told the WallStreetBets Redditors, now 8.2 plus million, to hold the GameStop stock, even though the price has been tanking dramatically. You see, those on WallStreetBets are saying this is called a short ladder attack. Essentially, the hedge funds are manipulating the stock, trading between each other to drive the price down so that it appears as though the stock is valueless, people panic, and then they sell, or to force margin calls, forcing people to deposit more money when they buy stock on margin, or to force brokers to pull those stocks and sell them automatically. Seems like it's a nefarious tactic because the machine is scared. Now, what happened when we saw the rise of meme power on the internet when it got Donald Trump elected? They claimed it was fascism. And these people who supported Trump were evil and far right. And you know, that worked for a lot of people. A lot of people on the left hated Donald Trump and bought into that narrative. And people who used to support free speech all of a sudden were just lining up right behind the establishment media and pushing their line. Well, this new issue, it's not partisan. The media is now trying a multitude of attacks. We saw over the past week them claiming, or the past several days, that Reddit was telling everyone to buy silver. But it was just outright not true, shockingly brazen in the lies coming from the media. One of my favorite instances is this image I'm showing you right now on the screen. It's from Bloomberg, and it says retail traders lose interest in GameStop, even though there's 8.26 million readers on WallStreetBets, many of whom are saying, hold your shares of GameStop and buy more. Since then, one person posted they were buying another $1 million worth of the stock. The media is lying. Now, here's the problem. We can see the lies. It has never been more obvious to anyone. With Donald Trump, you had people who hated the guy, and it was really easy to create that culture war partisan divide. Well, nobody likes Wall Street, right? For the most part. So now it's really easy for regular people to see through this. The normal lies won't work, but we're now seeing a new attempt to derail this mass movement and the rising up of regular people in general, be it left populists or right populists. First, we're seeing an article from The Nation where they're trying to make it seem like WallStreetBets are a bunch of far-right racist bigots, etc. It's a lie, an outright lie. They've already tried at Financial Times calling WallStreetBets alt-right. It's not true. When you've got Crystal Ball, she's the host of the show Rising on the Hill, she's a progressive, laughing and cheering this on. When you have Rashida Tlaib cheering it on, the smear of far right will not work, but they're trying anyway. But the bigger story here is how the machine is a churning. The New York Times calling on the Biden administration to create a reality czar. That's right. A ministry of truth, as it were. Yeah, from 1984. Do we really need the government to create a czar that will tell us what is true and what isn't? And why should we trust the government anyway? Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of scammers that would lie to you to get you to buy, say, silver. But these are the people in the media. The media was the one tricking you into buying shares of SLV, saying Reddit told you to do it and wanted everyone to do it. But when you go to the actual WallStreetBets Reddit, nobody was saying to do this. They were saying the opposite. It's a scam. Even r/stocks, which is a more irregular stock investment platform. WallStreetBets is kind of crazy. They're like, it's a casino, make crazy bets. No, r/stocks is more, calm and rational investing. And they said this is misinformation and it's everywhere. And it was the #2 post on all of Reddit. The media is lying and we can see it. So now they're going to the extremes. They're going to try and claim that WallStreetBets is super far right and 4chan, white supremacist, all that stuff, going really hard. And then they're going to say, Joe Biden, please send the government to intervene with the reality czar. Well, let's read exactly what's going on with this story from the New York Times. And before we get started, head over to timcast.com and become a member. My friends, more and more people are getting banned. I just saw a couple of lefties Left-wing channels got axed as well because they're also calling out the system in ways the establishment doesn't like. Now, we can rag, and many of us have, I guess we can say I told you so to many of these leftists, those who were cheering on the censorship of the far right because now they're getting banned. But this just means the cliffs are eroding ever further, and it's very likely that when I call out the media and their lies, well, the reason the New York Times is saying we should have a reality czar is because of channels like mine. I'm not particularly opinionated when it comes to policy, I'm not far right or far left, kind of just moderate. And that's the biggest threat. A rational, normal, milquetoast individual calling out their lies and showing you the evidence. That's why they need a reality czar. When the media coordinates a smear campaign claiming that retail investors lose interest in Gamestop, well, that would work if it weren't for channels like this and many others. And that's why I am concerned eventually they'll nuke this channel, which is why I'm saying go to timcast.com, become a member, and get access to exclusive members-only content. It is the shield that in the event we get suspended, banned, or removed, I will still exist in some platform or another, though they'll still be happy to have removed me because my reach will have dramatically decreased. But at least I will still be able to do my job. So again, don't forget to share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's read from the New York Times. How the Biden administration can help solve our reality crisis. These steps, experts say, could prod more people to abandon the scourge of hoaxes and lies. It's from our good friend, Kevin Roose, who I've talked about quite a bit. This guy, in my opinion, has written a whole lot of fake news. And I got to tell you, I know the guy personally, and I believe that he is not a journalist. He's not a journalist. The dude flat out told me in the past not to report stories because there was unethical behavior going on at the outlet we worked at, Fusion, and he didn't want to get called out for it. That being said, let's read what he says. He writes, last month, millions of Americans watched as President Biden took the oath of office and in a high-minded inaugural address called for a new era of American unity. But plenty of other Americans weren't paying attention to Mr. Biden's speech. They were too busy watching YouTube videos alleging that the inauguration was a pre-recorded hoax that had been filmed on a Hollywood soundstage. Okay, I'll agree with the guy on this one. That's insane. All right. Or they were melting down in QAnon group chats trying to figure out why the former president wasn't interrupting Biden's speech to declare martial law. Yeah, sorry. The QAnon stuff is all pretty much nonsense. Or maybe their TVs were turned to OAN, where an anchor was floating the baseless theory that Mr. Biden wasn't actually elected by the people. Once again, I think all of that stuff is just a waste of time. It's outlandish. And I'll agree with Mr. Roos to that extent. But I don't believe the answer is mass censorship. I believe that's the excuse. The amount of people that believe the QAnon stuff is not a whole lot. It's a small group. When you look at the prominent figures on Twitter who have millions of followers and have and are conservative, they're telling you, and they've been telling you, the Q stuff is fake. So why is the New York Times focusing on the fringe minority of conspiracy theorists? It's their opportunity to paint all of the right as crazy to justify a reality czar. He goes on to say hoaxes, lies, collective delusions aren't new, et cetera, et cetera. Sure. The muddled chaotic information ecosystem that produces these misguided beliefs doesn't just jeopardize some lofty ideal of national unity. It actively exacerbates our biggest national problems. Now, I'll tell you this. If we only had one news outlet, for the most part, the country would be unified. One would probably be too few because people just wouldn't trust it. But if you had just a couple, like things used to be, people pretty much understood much of the same things because they trusted the news and believed, for the most part, what they were hearing. Well, now we have the internet and we have mass communications. So you can't play that game. Now we need to have honesty and integrity, not manipulation. The problem is the mainstream media seeks to manipulate you, and I'll prove it. First, let me show you what he says. Assess the damage and avoid the terrorist trap. The experts agreed that before the Biden administration can tackle disinformation and extremism, it needs to understand the scope of the problem. Let me make sure I have the right port. Here we go. Check it out. So how can they solve that problem? Appoint a reality czar. Several experts I spoke with recommended that the Biden administration put together a cross-agency task force to tackle disinformation and domestic extremism, which would be led by something like a reality czar. It sounds a little dystopian, I'll grant, but let's hear them out. Let me stop you right there. It sounds dystopian because it is dystopian. And no, let's not hear them out. We understand the idea they're putting forward. And now you're going to try and argue in favor of what you admittedly say is dystopian. Nah, I'm not interested. Listen, I'll entertain any argument, but I'll listen to the argument. I've listened to people talk about the benefits of authoritarianism, and then I say, it's too bad it won't work in the end, and it defies all logic. You know what I've heard? There's a really good point. A reality czar, it'd be great, right? Because then you just shut down all the fake news and everyone believes the same thing if only people worked that way. People will not trust them no matter what. There are people that accuse me of being a shill and think I'm secretly working for the establishment. They believe what they want to believe. You can't force people to believe things. A reality czar would not solve anything. The idea of having a task force that comes together and tries to tell people what is true is pointless. There's already a press secretary telling you things. And no, for the most part, we don't trust the government anyway. Most people don't. And I'll tell you who they really don't trust. Trust in media hits new low. And this is just from a couple weeks ago. Look at that. Percentage of Americans who trust national media is now at 46%. This is why they're calling for a reality czar. They want to tell you what to think. He says, right now, these experts said the federal government's response to disinformation and domestic extremism, you see how they mix those together, is haphazard and spread across multiple agencies. Renee DiResta, a disinformation researcher at Stanford's Internet Observatory, gave an example of two seemingly unrelated problems: misinformation about COVID-19 and election fraud. Often, she said, the same people and groups are responsible for spreading both types. So instead of two parallel processes, one at the center of the CDC and one at the FEC, trying to correct voting misinformation, a centralized task force could coordinate a single strategic response. If each of them are doing it distinctly and independently, you run the risk of missing connections, blah, blah, blah. Audit the algorithms. I'm actually in favor of this. I'm in favor of no algorithms or just getting rid of them. He goes on to say, several experts recommend the Biden administration push for much more transparency into the inner workings of the black box algorithms that Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and other major platforms use to rank feeds. Well, I'll tell you this. The problem there is that if people know how the algorithms work, they manipulate the algorithms, and then it would get worse. But let me just stop. You get the point. I'm not going to read through everything he has to say about his realities are. I want to show you the paradox, the paradoxical politics of the Gamestop pump. I want to show you how the media is going to try and trick you into supporting the hedge funds. And then when this story comes out, and it's complete BS, I can prove it very simply by just looking at the article. A lot of people will just read the headline. They'll believe that those at WallStreetBets who are buying this stock are evil, far-right, alt-right, etc. They're not. But that's the name of the game. When the media comes out and tells you, everybody buy silver. Silver is the new short. Move over GameStop, buy silver. Silver is the Army's next target. And we know that's a lie. Well, what did Kevin say? It's the YouTube channels. They can't have you listening to me proving them wrong. Let me show you something. If you actually just read the article and then search for the source material, you will easily see they're lying. But this is a really incredible article that seeks to smear those at WallStreetBets. The Nation, for those that aren't familiar, is a left-wing publication. They are trying to convince leftists not to support this movement, Occupy Wall Street 2.0, whatever you want to call it. They say, we are now barreling into our third week of financial meme hell. Video game retailer GameStop's stock rose over 1,000% after it was championed by the r/WallStreetBets subreddit. The stock fell 30% on Monday, however, leading many to believe a crash may be imminent. What started as a half-serious Reddit campaign to rally around GameStop has ballooned into something much larger. Is this Occupy Wall Street 2? Or is this a second Gamergate? You see already where they're going. Are the Redditors that are leading the movement right now populist heroes? Or is this, as Elizabeth Warren has suggested, just a psychotic internet casino that is tearing the fabric of society apart? Mind you, Elizabeth Warren came out against WallStreetBets. What can't be denied is that a Reddit community was able to harness its scale to bend the market to its will, as a genie you can't put back in the bottle. I'll agree with that. He goes on to mention that they make risky plays in the stock market, YOLOs, you only live once, that's what it means. Being unabashedly pro-capitalist, I don't necessarily agree with that. And lacking any sort of moral scruples, I don't agree with that either. Shkreli, who's considered the embodiment of Wall Street greed, thus makes for an excellent idol. A username, I'm not going to read the usernames. You see what they're doing? People don't like Shkreli. You know, he's the farmer bro. he's already trying to plant the seeds. He mentions they want to go long, blah, blah, blah. But let me show you this. He says, it's this two-pronged attack that makes WallStreetBets, what they're doing right now, so unique. It is collectively pumping, boosting the share price of stocks sorted by hedge funds while waging an information war. 4chan and Reddit pursued a similar strategy in 2016 in support of the Trump presidential campaign. These communities decentralized a political movement, rebuilding it to function better on huge social platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. What is happening around Gamestop right now, however, is the first time this viral reality bending has been applied to something like the financial world at this scale. The GameStop pump, like Trumpism, QAnon, or Gamergate, is also a meme first and a political movement second. And ideologies born from the internet evolve like any other kind of internet content. All right. Well, it is a meme, but why compare it to Trumpism, QAnon, or Gamergate? Do you see the goal here? They are it's negative association. They're the bad guys. They're the Gamergate. They're the far right. Bad, bad, bad. These are the bad things. Don't want to be with the bad things, right? And the Nation publishes this, and it's going to rally leftists to start abandoning the effort to target the hedge funds and stick it to Wall Street. Much like what they did the first time around with the first Occupy Wall Street. There was unity around this anger targeting the big financial institutions. So they injected identity politics. Now they're injecting tribalism, Trumpism, QAnon, Gamergate. I'm going to tell you, man. Let me show you what he says. WallStreetBets users have also threatened, and I'm going to keep this light, to seriously harm, I'm not going to read it verbatim, reporters and Jewish people. Last week, the subreddit's main Discord server was shut down because of out-of-control racism and paranoid conspiracy theories. You see how the game works? Let me tell you the truth. WallStreetBets had a Discord server. This is where you can chat. And it was shut down for hate speech. WallStreetBets said that, first of all, it's against the rules to post hate speech. It is for posting about stocks and memes. And also, they had auto filters to remove certain words. But some people used Icelandic text that bypasses the filter so they could post hate speech. And then Discord used it as justification to ban them. Here's how the game is played. First, Twitter or some platform will ban someone and say, we ban them for hate speech. Then the news outlets will say, out of control racism and paranoid conspiracy theories. They will exacerbate the lie. They will push the lie. They will exaggerate. Now, he says they threaten to cause harm to reporters and Jewish people. So let me just pull up his source. And in this image, you can actually see, and I'm going to have to censor some of this. But more importantly, this person saying, is anti-Semitism the driving force between GameStop short squeeze? Maybe not. This image that we're seeing, the ones you can actually see, it's 4chan. It's not Reddit. Reddit and 4chan are different websites. Why then did this individual writing this article claim that they're saying it's WallStreetBets users? Those image, that image I just showed you, 4chan, not Reddit. Do you see the lie? They're trying to associate this with bad things. They want people on the left to rally around a leftist tribal issue. You know, at the same time all this is happening, we're seeing Ocasio-Cortez do this big Instagram live stream deriding a police officer who came to save her from the rioters. And she's saying he didn't announce himself, he didn't have a partner, and she was scared, and he was angry at her. And it was just an all-around weird situation, but it really does feel like there are people desperately trying to manipulate your view and get you to stop thinking about Wall Street. Y'all, YouTube, they haven't given me any warnings or anything about pushing this. But when you see the Nation try and push this story where they straight out lie, okay, I hope you looked at what I showed. That was an outright lie. That is not r/WallStreetBets. Let me show you. This is what WallStreetBets looks like. Okay, it's silly, meme filled with 8.2 million users. And what they showed you in that tweet, claiming it was the Reddit, was actually 4chan, a totally different website. Could it be this reporter is inept? I believe so. I think they got fired for, let's just say a lack of ethical journalism. I'll put it at that. And that's, in my opinion, they got fired from their previous job, and now they're here writing for the Nation. We can see that the media, members of the media, I got to tell you, man, I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but at least I can say that they're incompetent and they're liars. But I got to tell you, part of this just feels like it's totally coordinated. Because you take a look at this first image I showed you of the Bloomberg segment that says retail traders lose interest in GameStop. Emma Chandra, Bloomberg News. Is it possible this woman didn't even bother to look at Reddit to see what they were doing? I think so. So, never attribute to malice that which can be explained by incompetence, Hanlon's razor. And I would say that this reporter, assuming it was her, she was who was speaking, and who made the chyron, the lower third, totally inept and should be fired from their job immediately. Whoever wrote that, fired. Took 2 seconds to Google search Reddit. It took 2 seconds to type reddit.com, enter, and see the top post saying buy, hold. And even Marc Cuban, look at this. Marc Cuban in a Reddit AMA on Tuesday advised amateur traders to hold their shares of GameStop. How have they lost interest when a day later Marc Cuban comes in and says, hold it, baby? Marc Cuban of all people. They're lying to you. They want you to they want you to abandon this. It's not going to work. Sorry. The left and the right both don't like Wall Street. And it's a lot harder for the establishment machine to protect Wall Street than it is when it comes to politics. Look, Donald Trump lost. He got Ocean's 11. That's the way I explain it. Democrats and some Republicans set up a crazy amount of rule changes in the months leading up to the election. Mail-in voting was a huge benefit to the Democrats. Republicans weren't voting by mail. Democrats were. So a lot of people look at these mail dumps where it jumps like 95% for Joe Biden, and they say it's not possible. But, dude, it is possible. It's because y'all got Ocean's 11. Let me explain. Cities tend to overwhelmingly be Democrat. Not only that, but Republicans don't vote by mail for the most part. So when you see a large amount of ballots come in for Biden, it was because there were mail-in votes from cities. Now, we can talk about the rule changes in violation of, the state legislature's desires, and that's where the actual suit comes in. The point is, not to go off on a tangent, that the media is lying. And that's what they do. Okay, not to get derailed. What we're seeing now is a desperate attempt to target individuals, to target people who aren't smart enough to follow what's going on, to trick them into selling out their stock and shutting it all down. It's kind of creepy, man. It is really, really creepy to see the New York Times call for a reality czar. No joke. Why don't they just call it the Ministry of Truth from 1984? What do they say? They don't really describe the Ministry of Truth. Oh, okay, this is a book, The Ministry of Truth. But the Ministry of Truth was something in 1984. It's crazy, man. WallStreetBets has found something truly powerful. And when you have both the left and the right in agreement on what the problem is, the media and the establishment struggles to figure out a way to actually shatter this. They did a good job with the first Occupy Wall Street. I don't think it'll work all that well this time around. But let me give you some examples. When they talk about a reality czar, let's step outside of the Wall Street bets for a second and talk about the real danger of giving the government this reality czar position. Not that it would necessarily have all that much power, but it is still dangerous. Check this out. You want to talk about a reality czar? Determine what's true? Sure. From the Daily Beast, Andrew Yang accuses MSNBC of suppressing him. Not going to take it. November 25th, 2019. All right. This is a year and a half ago or so. Andrew Yang, running for president, was having his name and image removed by MSNBC and other outlets. Why? They didn't want him to run. He wasn't part of the club. You see how it works? The media was actively suppressing a very popular individual. I supported him in his early run. Not as big of a fan nowadays, for the most part, but there you go. More importantly, from the New York Post, how the media covered up the Hunter Biden story until after the election. The mainstream media, they're lying. They're lying about so much. Big tech, social media, they're suppressing information. Here's the challenge. With the prominent Donald Trump subreddit on Reddit, they claimed that, the Donald is gaming things. The Donald was already divided. Not the Donald itself, but divided from everyone else. The people were divided. Not everybody likes Donald Trump. So when they needed to strike them down, they had about half of the support of the people. Because a lot of people said, I don't like Trump. I don't care if they censor him. That was a big mistake. Now many leftists are getting censored. But many on the left said, so what? It's a private platform. Ha ha. Bye-bye. And so the Donald became its own website, the Donald.win, which is now patriots.win. Today, it's WallStreetBets. Well, WallStreetBets is just a bunch of people posting memes about YOLO and dumping money into stocks. And it's a severe weakness for the establishment. And right now they are stripping value away from hedge funds and giving it back to regular working people. So the media is now approaching this in a multi-pronged attack. But people are united. The left and the right together all despise what the hedge funds do and what Wall Street does. There's a viral post now on Reddit, just from a user, a self-post, like it's not even to a forum, where they're saying they believe that what's really going on is that these big funds have been counterfeiting stocks, essentially. And if they can't buy stocks to cover their game, their manipulation, then it all falls apart. And the SEC will be forced to intervene. And as they said on Reddit, it'll be bigger than Enron. I'm not old enough to understand too much about what Enron was and how that all went down. But they're saying it's going to be big. It's going to be biblical. And that's why all the stops are being pulled out. So let me ask you, when Marc Cuban comes out and says, hold, don't take advice from me. I don't know anything about it. Marc Cuban, though, he's the man, isn't he? And he said, hold. I wonder why anyone would sell at this point. And I wonder how these journalists justify their lies. They can't. They're just straight up lying. One of my favorite articles ever from The Intercept, Glenn Greenwald, back when he was still at The Intercept from 2 years ago, beyond BuzzFeed, the 10 worst, most embarrassing U.S. media failures on the Trump-Russia story. It's not just 10. He goes through a bunch of stories where they had to issue retractions. But at the end of the article, he actually issues honorable mentions. So let me see if I can get down. There's a lot. These are amazing. All of these stories they put out claiming Trump and Russia and then retracted them. And then after the number one post, oh, this is great. This story was Trump Jr. was offered hacked documents via email, but they read the email date wrong. It was publicly available information. And then we go down and they say they have their, dishonorable mentions. Sorry, their dishonorable mentions. They add even more stories. They've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 10 dishonorable mentions. And then a special mention giving Luis Mensch, a conspiracy theorist on Twitter, a platform to write about, nonsense. This is one of my favorite articles because it's plain as day, and it's from The Intercept, a left-wing publication, and Glenn Greenwald. Now, I guess tribal leftists don't like Glenn Greenwald anyway, but the realignment is a real thing. If you find yourself questioning why the media and the establishment is smearing those at WallStreetBets, which probably includes you, you need to understand the lies have been pervasive for some time. Oh, they'll tell you that I'm far right or whatever. That's absolutely not true. I'm actually pretty left on economic issues. I'm just very libertarian. So I find agreements with many conservatives so long as they're upholding libertarian positions. Though I'm not a big fan of conservative Inc. And I think too many people right now, conservatives, they're ragging on like Jen Psaki, the press secretary. And I'm like, why? They're like talking about her appearance and they're talking about her whether she can do her job and how, McEnany was better. And I'm just like, I don't care. OK, look, I don't care about the press secretary. Jen Psaki can do what she wants to do. I don't know why everybody's ragging on her. It's just stupid. It's just really, really dumb. OK, if she lies, call her out for lying. If Kayleigh McEnany was lying, you call her out for lying. But to rag on her simply for being a part of the Biden administration, I just think is dumb. And beyond this, if Joe Biden does something good, I'm gonna say he did something good. All right, it's not really doing good things though. So it's yet to be seen. It's still we're not even a month in yet. I digress. They're gonna lie to you. They're going to get people to produce out of context clips to smear me, and they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that as my channel grows, they try and put stops and hurdles in the way. They don't want you watching this stuff because the media narrative is a lie. It's a lie. They want their realities are. They're lying. Now don't get me wrong. I'm not always right. I just try my best. I try to be honest. And you'll need to get your news from a bunch of other people as well. But they're not just coming for the right. Although conservatives were getting the brunt of the censorship because of Trump, they're now coming for many of the leftists because the left is the bigger threat now to Joe Biden. They want to unify this monoculture around corporatist Democrats. That's what they want. They want it all to go back to the establishment elite. They don't like the idea of people having the ability to speak up, which means it's only a matter of time before they nuke my channels outright. No guarantees, my friends, but hopefully I'm optimistic. I'll put it that way. I'm very optimistic. It seems that everything we're seeing just shows that the machine is falling apart and they're not going to be able to maintain their stranglehold any longer. A reality czar. If we were losing, then the reality czar would not be necessary. The reality is we're winning. Be it left populist or right, just libertarian, we're winning. Now be careful of those on the right and the left who would lie and pretend to be allies of, populism. Those who would spread malicious conspiracy theories to trick you into believing garbage nonsense to throw you off your focus. Those on the left who would smear anybody who challenges the establishment as Trumpist or a Trumpism or a fascist or far right. They'll do the same to the left. They do it to Jimmy Dore. They do it to Glenn Greenwald. Don't believe the lies. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up tonight at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. We will be live hanging out with, normally we don't announce guests, but I think Freedom Tunes is going to be on the show. So check it out. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And don't forget to go to timcast.com, become a member, because it's only a matter of time, like I mentioned, before they nuke this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all tonight.